Thank you so much for having me. She just said I reached out to her when I saw that you bringing the Blaschka into this festival because they are so important to me, and I talk about them to anyone and everyone who will listen. So you guys are that lucky group today. First of all, I apologize. These facts are upsetting, but I'm putting them up here in case he has not seen them yet or heard of them. So the triple planetary crisis is undeniable. And now more than ever, ecological awareness, action, and innovation are needed at an individual and community level. Our work and creative interdisciplinary methodologies can help to achieve this by offering people ways to connect with nature, develop nature-based empathy, increase their eco-literacy and climate literacy rates, and also have access to and an understanding of potential solutions and action steps. So this is especially important now with the growing and looming public health and mental health crises. And this is because both these limit our access to nature. They stall our ability to develop that essential nature-based empathy that we can take action. And negative ecological emotions like eco-grief, eco-fear, ecophobia, they all essentially decline cognitive function and influence information retention. So having any type of science communication efforts is really difficult right now. So also, these two things are stalling or even eliminating people's ability to act. So to address these issues, in my practice, I investigate ways human-made objects and materials can be salvaged and repurposed in art experiences and also used as educational tools. So one way that I have been doing that in Ireland is through working to digitally preserve Ireland's Blaschka glass models, which I'm very excited to talk to you about. So in the late 1800s, there was an expansion of exploration and research, and researchers going out and collecting new specimens. Because of this, in natural history museums, there was an expansion of species and specimens that were brought in new bases. Problem, though, is that marine invertebrate species, because they're made up of more than 90% water, they could not be preserved in the same way that other species could. When they are preserved in fluids, or chemical fluids, their color and their form disintegrated. So in the middle here, you can see an actual species that's been preserved. It's completely deteriorated, and then on the right was the original specimen. So a solution to the problem was invented in the 1860s by Leopold and Rudolf Blaschka. They figured out a way using flame work to create models that accurately represented each of the species that they were creating. This is a very experimental and artistic process, continued to develop throughout their entire lifetime. So the Blaschka worked from real specimens, but they also worked from biological illustrations. You can see here, actual specimen, biological illustration, and then the glass model on the right. They were also suspended, in addition to being accurate, they were suspended in a state of movement that gave the illusion of life. Here is an unpublished page from a catalog that is coming out eventually from one of my collaborators, but this is showing how the Blaschkas worked from engraving. So the engravings are on the outside and their sketches are on the inside, which is essentially how they got from engraving to then creating the model. And what you don't see here is that they would also have the specimen in the space working and creating them from both materials. These are my absolute favorite. If you have not been to the Zoology and Marine Biology Museum on Galway's campus, there is the most impressive one of these there. These are dissections of different invertebrates. So it's an open up view, an expanded view of the internal anatomy of a lot of invertebrate species. They're incredible. So between 1863 and 1890, the Blaschka Workshop produced thousands of these and shipped them all over the world to be used in natural history museums and by zoology students. They each represent, there's a total of 700 marine invertebrate species represented in all of the collections. Ireland, which is why I'm here, has the largest collection of Blaschkas in the world. They have 952, which currently exist across 6 collections. And the University of Galway's museum has 118. And I've seen a lot of collections. Galway's collection is one of the most well-preserved out of all of them. So again, if you haven't gone to see them, you should get there. After the 1800s, unfortunately, with the commencement of ocean life surveys, underwater photography, and other advancements in technology, the models kind of lost their purpose and they lost their value. A lot of them were shoved into drawers, into storage, never to be seen of again until people like me came snooping around. But unfortunately, this image is how a lot of the collections are currently. So there are some that are on display, but there are many, many drawers that look like this, which breaks my soul. So, frozen in time, the Blaschka models are now powerful artifacts that draw attention to vital species now threatened or already driven to extinction by human activity and the triple planetary crisis. So holding significant historic, scientific, artistic, and educational value, the models need to be researched, understood, maintained, and shared with the public. For this to happen, it's important to be able to compare and reference the models, both inside of individual collections and across collections globally. The best way to achieve this, because of the fragile nature as a glass object, is to standardize a digital preservation process and share them through digital imaging and recording. So in 2016, I was first introduced to the Blaschka. I spent a year trying to get funding to come back and work with them. And in 2017, I was awarded 3 years of funding by the University of Iowa to come back and spearhead the digital preservation process at the National Museum of Art and Natural History. So at the time, there was no standardized method for digitally recording all of the models in a way that could be shared. And there was absolutely no affordable or standardized or easy way to record the model's damage and cracks, basically. So collaborating with Emmanuel Reynaud, Paolo Viscardi, and Nigel Monahan, we developed a standardized shooting setup that would allow us to reference each model accurately for their taxonomic reference. Here are just diagrams. So I don't have time to go into all of it, but if you want to chat, we can talk about it. This formatting process allowed us to record the accurate size, color, and design of each model, which was something that was not standardized anywhere. And it also allowed us to record the material composition of a lot of models. So many people think that the glass models are just made out of glass, but they are not. A lot of the models are also created with cotton, wool, brass wire, wax, paper, glue, resins, wood, plaster, and clay. These are usually found when the models are accidentally broken, or we find a box of broken models in a cabinet somewhere. So for the first time, we've started identifying the different materials in there. And this is important for conservation purposes because every single material has a different rate of decomposition or just reaction with atmospheric factors. So if one thing reacts, it affects the other objects and it destabilizes the structural integrity of the object. So being able to record that's very important. This is showing cotton. Best top you down. The other thing that we established that was also incredibly important for preserving these objects was how to identify existing damage, material stability, and structural integrity. So, like I said, most of the methods in use were very expensive, required a lot of space, a lot of time, and very advanced trained teams to be able to work with the equipment. We established a very, very easy and affordable method photographing the damage, which just involved high-intensity backlighting or underlighting, and then a post-editing process. So having these images can help to inform decisions about storing, displaying, and caring for different models that have been damaged. So the workflow that we created was designed to be scalable and applicable to any Blaschka collection to ensure the digital preservation of every model and the creation of a global database. That is our end goal. So completing this can help researchers, conservators, and curators to make better informed decisions about identification, comparison, and decisions for safe storage, display, and dispersal. So while also, which is where I come in, they provide materials for museums' marketing, education, and outreach. In my own studio practice, I create large-scale, community-specific immersive installations highlighting the plastic pollution crisis and its effect on marine biodiversity. These installations are made entirely of community-collected plastic that is also collected with the community, from the community, by the community. And they are projection mapped with underwater documentation provided from scientific collaborators. So these installations work to bring the wonders of the ocean environment to viewers. They also share scientific research, and they create spaces where positive conversations can happen surrounding concerns and solutions to basically human threats. So because the Blaschka models are accurately depicting marine invertebrate species, I've been able to include them into these large-scale projects. So what I do is I take the digital surrogates, I animate them to move like the species they actually represent, and then I incorporate them with the underwater documentation and projection map them onto the spaces. So this effect essentially creates these larger-than-life experiences, immersing viewers within this underwater realm. Sorry, so those are Blaschka models up at the top. Those are the artworks. Sometimes I abstract them. It depends on the audience, but I do love a bit of color. So sometimes the colors get a little punched. But these, most of the time I do stick with the actual glass representations. Most recent project that I have been taking a part of with the Blaschka is through a partnership with the University of Chicago. Every single summer, I work with computer science undergraduate students for 10 weeks, and they work on helping me to develop an augmented reality mobile app. The purpose of this is to be used in my installations to improve engagement and information dissemination, while also exposing people to the Blaschka. So the app is essentially a database of marine invertebrate species, each represented by their digital surrogate of the Blaschka. The idea is that people will have their phone walking into the installation space, have the app downloaded. They'll be going through the database and looking at species that they want to learn about. They can choose the species, and then they'll be given a coloring page. Then they take that coloring page and you run through the installation space, and they find the invertebrate in the projections. They color it in, either mimicking how it is in the space or creating their own new species. Then they can use the app to to scan their drawing. The app converts their drawing into an animation, and then that animation is through an augmented reality function overlaid in the installation space so that it can now interact with all of the projections that are going on in the install. There's a bit of that. This summer, we are furthering the project to include an online interactive platform where students' drawings will be sent from the installation to the online platform, and the actual invertebrate will be placed in environments where their natural habitat is. So it's going to be a way that users can interact with biodiversity monitoring techniques and learn more about Blaschka and the invertebrate species they represent. So, yeah, the Blaschkas are an underappreciated resource that can help to combat the triple planetary crisis by raising awareness, generating action, and innovation. Items they need to be protected and shared. So, I'm here if you guys want to talk about them. And again, if you haven't seen them yet, at the museum.